Congratulations, you've just found the number one over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and the founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, amazing bodies they love for the rest of their lives. All right, beautiful people, listen up. Here's the deal. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but you're still not losing weight? Maybe you're working out. Maybe you're trying to eat better. Maybe you're making a real, genuine effort. You're not just sitting on the couch doing nothing, but the scale barely moves. Your energy seems to be kind of hit or miss, and you start to wonder, okay, what am I missing here? Because this is the most frustrating place to be. If you weren't trying, it would make sense. If you were going completely off the rails, it would make sense. But that's not you. Certainly not somebody who's tuned into a podcast titled The Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. You're putting in the effort and you're maybe not getting the returns you expect. So what do most people do? They double down. Maybe they eat less. They add more cardio. They try to be quote unquote more disciplined. And somehow, get this, that makes things worse. They become more tired, more frustrated, more stuck. So today, I want to talk about this. I want to clear this up because if you feel like you're doing everything right and nothing's working, I can promise you you're not crazy, but you might just be missing a couple of key pieces. And once you see them, everything starts to make a lot more sense. All right, guys, let's go. Let's break this down. Now, before we go any further, I want to repeat this so that you guys understand this. You are not crazy and you are not broken. If you feel like you're putting in the effort and you're not getting the results, that's a very real experience. We see it here. Our coaches here at the Silver Edge see it all the time, and it's way more common than you think. Most people in this situation aren't doing nothing. They're doing something. Sometimes they're doing a lot of things. Maybe they're trying to eat better. Maybe they're getting their workouts in and they're making an effort to be healthy. So this isn't a motivation problem. It's not a character flaw. It's not because you just need more discipline. In fact, a lot of the people I talk to in this exact same situation are some of the most disciplined people I know. They've just been given bad or maybe incomplete guidance. And here's the deal. You can do the wrong things very consistently. And when that happens, it feels like, man, I've tried everything or nothing works anymore. Or maybe this is just, my age. This is just how it is. But it's not. What's really happening is this. You're putting in the effort, but your body isn't getting the signals it needs in order to respond the way you want it to. And that's a completely different problem with a completely different solution. So if you're feeling stuck or frustrated or confused, good, because that means you care. And once we align the right pieces, that effort that you've already been putting in finally starts to work for you instead of against you. And here's the shift, I think, that changes everything. Most people think that their body responds to effort. In other words, you need to work harder, you need to eat less, you need to burn more calories, and the body will reward you. But that's not really how it works. I mean, that's just an oversimplification, right? Your body doesn't necessarily reward effort. It's going to respond to signals. There's a difference there, especially as we start to age up. But that's it. That's all it is right there. Every workout, every meal, every night of sleep, every stressful day, you're sending your body information. And your body is constantly listening and it's constantly asking, okay, given this set of situations, what do I need to do to adapt? Not how hard is this person trying? So you can be working really, really hard and still sending the wrong signals. Let me give you an example. Maybe you are, because this is so common, we see this all the time. Maybe you're under eating and you're doing tons of cardio and you're not strength training consistently, and perhaps you're even running on poor sleep and high stress. So in that case, the signal you're sending to your body, to your metabolism, is this: energy is scarce. We need to conserve. We need to protect. So what does your body do? It slows things down. It holds onto fat. In fact, I would say it clings onto fat because it perceives that as a precious energy source. And it's going to reduce energy output, which paradoxically makes fat loss harder, not easier. That's not your body being stubborn. That's your body being smart. Now, let's Flip the signal. If you're strength training consistently, if you're eating enough protein, if you're fueling your body appropriately, properly, if you're managing stress and sleep, the signal becomes, hey, we need to perform, we need muscle, we can spend energy. And suddenly things start to shift. Same person, same effort, but different signals with dramatically different outcomes. And this is why so many people feel stuck. They're working hard, but they got lousy inputs. Their inputs are misaligned. And once you understand this, you stop asking, why isn't this working? And you start asking, okay, what signals am I sending? And that question right there is where progress truly begins. And when I say progress, I mean sustainable progress. So now that we understand this concept of signals over effort, right? Let's talk about the most common reason you can be doing, quote unquote, everything right and still not seeing results. These are the patterns that we see over and over again here at the Silver Edge. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 reasons for you here. All right. Reason number 1, you're under eating and slowing your metabolism. This one surprises people, but so many of you all, especially in our age demographic, fall into this under eating bucket. So you think eating less should lead to more fat loss. And look, that makes sense, right? Because that's what everybody says. Just move more, eat less, you'll lose fat. But after years of dieting, your body's going to adapt. Lower calories equals lower energy, which means lower output. You feel tired, you feel sluggish, you start craving everything in sight, and your fat loss stalls because the signal you're sending is this: energy is scarce, we need to conserve. So in this case, you're definitely not broken, you're just underfueled. Reason number 2, you're not focusing on building muscle. So a lot of people are quote unquote working out, but they're not actually building muscle. It's random workouts or maybe super light weights in some kind of a class or maybe lots and lots of cardio and very little or maybe no progressive strength training. Here's the problem. Muscle is the engine, and without it, your metabolism's really got nothing to scale. It has no reason to scale. So even if you're quote unquote burning calories, doing all that other stuff, jumping around, you're not upgrading the system. Reason number 3, you're inconsistent. Now, this is a sneaky one because a lot of times you don't even realize that you're being inconsistent. So now before you push back, now some of you are thinking, no, I'm not inconsistent, but hear me out here. Most people aren't inconsistent Monday through Friday. They're inconsistent across the whole week. A few off-plan meals, some missed workouts, weekends that look very different than weekdays, and that adds up. So not because you're failing, but because the signal isn't consistent enough to drive any kind of meaningful adaptation. And then reason number 4, your plan does not match your life. This is a big one. We see this one all the time, right? And this is the classic New Year's resolutioner here. Your plan looks fantastic on paper. Maybe it's the best plan ever made, but if it doesn't fit your schedule, your energy, your reality, where you are in life right now, it's not going to work. That's a recipe for disaster. Usually starts falling apart by, like, say, Wednesday. And when that happens, that's not a discipline problem. It's a design problem. And then reason number 5, you don't actually have a system. You just have tactics. I think this is the root of everything. Most people have a workout here, a diet there, a few habits they're trying to follow, but no real holistic, cohesive system, no framework. And tactics without a system, they feel productive because you're busy, you're sweating maybe, but they don't compound. So you end up working hard without moving forward. So if you've been feeling stuck, it's probably not one big mistake, one glaring thing. It's probably just a few small misalignments that are sending the wrong signals over and over again. And the good news, once you identify them, they are 100% fixable. Now, here's something that's really interesting that I've seen over and over again. Oftentimes, the people who feel the most stuck are the ones that are trying the hardest. And now, don't get me wrong, these are smart people. They are disciplined people. They are willing to put in the work, and yet they're spinning their wheels. And so why? Why would this be? It's because they get caught up in a very predictable pattern, and it looks something like this. They start a new plan. They're motivated. They're consistent. They're doing everything, again, quote unquote, right. For a couple of weeks, things are feeling pretty good. Then progress slows, the scale stalls, the energy dips, life gets busy, and instead of stepping back and adjusting the system to match their life, they just push harder, they grind harder. Maybe they eat less, maybe they throw on some more cardio, maybe they tighten everything up. And for a moment, it feels like they're taking back control and starting to win again. But what they're actually doing is digging that metabolic hole just a little bit deeper. Because now the signals get even worse. Now we've got less fuel, which your body is perceiving as food scarcity. You got more stress, more fatigue. So what happens next? They burn out. Now motivation seriously starts to drop and consistency slips. And understandably, frustration builds. And eventually they say, this just isn't working. And so they stop. They regroup, and then they start over again with something new. Does that sound familiar to any of you guys out there? Maybe it's a new plan, new motivation, but it's the same pattern over and over again. This is not a motivation problem for this class of person. This is a feedback problem. They don't know when to adjust, and maybe they don't know what to adjust, and they don't have a system guiding the process. Again, they don't have that framework, the big picture, that strategic roadmap. So they're relying instead on effort instead of strategy. And effort without direction will always lead to frustration. The people who break this cycle aren't the ones who just try harder. They're the ones who change the pattern. So if the problem is misaligned signals, what's the solution? What actually works? Not another extreme plan, not starting over from scratch, not doing more necessarily. What works is a simple reset, getting the right signals back in place consistently. Here's what this looks like. Number one, strength becomes the anchor. It's the backbone. So everything starts here. Not random workouts, not whatever you feel like, not wandering around the gym and doing whatever machine is open or jogging on your treadmill. But I'm talking about consistent, progressive strength training, usually about 3 days a week. This tells your body, whoa, we need muscle, we need to perform. And when that signal is clear, everything else starts to work better. Number two, you got to fuel your body, not fight it. This is where a lot of people need a reset. Instead of constantly trying to eat less and less and less and being restrictive, you focus on eating enough of the right things. We need protein to support muscle. We need whole food for energy. We need consistency over perfection. You're no longer trying to out-discipline your body. You're actually aligning and working with your body. Number three, you build a repeatable week. I think we covered this a few weeks back, but this ties everything together. Not perfect days, but a simple weekly structure that you can actually stick to. So strength training anchored, movement built in, nutrition predictable, recovery accounted for. Because when the week works, progress starts to compound. Number four, you adjust gradually, not drastically. This is where most people go wrong. They make these ginormous big swings. They cut calories too hard, or they add tons of cardio, or they change everything all at once. Instead, you make small strategic adjustments, slight calorie tweaks, slight training progressions, slight lifestyle improvements, and you give your body time to respond to those changes. So here's the big takeaway. Fat loss after 50 isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things consistently long enough for your body to learn to trust the process. And I'm here to tell you, when those signals line up, progress stops feeling like a fight and it starts feeling like momentum. All right, so let's just slow our roll here for a second. No judgment, no guilt, just some raw honesty here. If you're feeling stuck right now, I want you to ask yourself just a few simple questions. Meet yourself right where you are. Are you consistently fueling your body, or are you still trying to eat as little as possible and hoping that works? Are you actually building muscle, or just staying busy with workouts that feel productive? Maybe they make you sweat. If someone looked at your last 7 days, I'm talking about your training and your nutrition and your movement, would they see a clear, repeatable system, or a mix of good intentions and maybe some guesswork? And when progress slows, what do? Do you step back and adjust strategically, or do you double down and try and force it? And here's the big one. If you kept doing exactly what you're doing right now for the next 90 days, would it move you closer to your goal? Or would it just leave you exhausted or maybe more frustrated? And look, again, no shaming here. There's no right or wrong answers, right? But clarity matters, because once you can clearly see whether your current approach is working for you or quietly working against you, you're no longer stuck. You're just one adjustment away. So let's wrap this thing up here. Here's the takeaway I want you to walk away with from this episode. Again, you're not broken. Your metabolism isn't broken. Your body isn't working against you, although sometimes it can certainly feel that way especially in this age demographic. And you're definitely not too old for this kind of work. You're just misaligned. You've got some misaligned signals. You got some misaligned structure. Perhaps you have a misaligned approach. And when those things are off, even slightly, it can feel like nothing works. But the moment you realign them, everything else starts to change. Energy comes back. Workouts feel better. Progress starts to show up again, sometimes even quicker than you expect. Not because you suddenly became more motivated or more disciplined, but because your body finally has a reason to respond. And this is why so many people stay stuck. They assume something is wrong with them, so they try to fix themselves, when what they really need to do is fix the system. Because your body is incredibly adaptive. It's incredibly responsive when you give it the right inputs. It's been adapting to what you've been doing all along. Now it's just a matter of giving it something better to respond to. So again, you're not broken. You're closer than you think. You just need a tweak. You just need alignment. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, dang, Kev, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm missing. Well, that's exactly where most people get stuck. Not because they're not trying, but because they can't see their own blind spots, right? And that's where having a second set of eyes can make all the difference. And that is exactly why I offer free clarity calls. This isn't a sales pitch, it's a conversation. We are going to look at what you're currently doing, what signals your body is actually receiving, and where things might be misaligned. Then we're going to map out a simple, realistic next step based on your life, your schedule, and your goals. Because once you know what's missing, everything gets easier. You stop guessing, you stop spinning your wheels, and finally start moving forward with confidence. So if that sounds helpful, you guys can book a free clarity call with me using the link in the show notes. You guys can find that on whatever app you're listening to this on, or head over to our website. You can find it there as well, because you don't necessarily need to try harder. You just need to get aligned. Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you are over 50 and you feel frustrated or stuck and you want a clear plan, book a free clarity call with me. You guys can find a link to learn more in the show notes for this episode. You can find that on whatever app you're listening to this on, or head over to silveredgefitness.com/414. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to please give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.